So there we go. So really excited to have you, Dr. Beckford. I'll have you introduce your amazingness because I will not do it justice. And I'm not about that.
Well, thank you. The amazing Dr. Afolabi Brown. So I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford, and I am the CEO of Your Caring Docs, where we help organizations to reduce stress and burnout through curated self-care workshops. I'm a speaker. Both of us are now best-selling authors of the book. Yes,
just had it. Just
in addition to that, so international speaker, author, trained as an emergency medicine physician, been practicing and doing medicine for over 15 years. So we know a little bit about stress. So we're here to really pour into you guys and, to really support those of you guys who are out there who are probably dealing with some of the things that we're talking about today.
Yes. And it's lovely. I love how the table is switching a bit because you've had me on your show, the Your Caring Docs show. I mean, that's just an incredible resource for everyone who's looking to be inspired by stories, by, just even like medical conditions. It's been just incredible watching you do this. And to have been a part of it, I've just been honored. So thank you. Thank you for everything you do.
So maybe we jump into the part.
Oh, thank you. So maybe we'll jump right in because there's just so much good stuff we're going to be talking about. But first, one of the things I wrote when I was promoting this was the fact that we are the most burnt out generation right now. Like, it's incredible. And just your mission resonates with a lot of us in the fact that you are helping professionals find ways to deal with burnout through a very, very, it seems very simple tool, which is called self-care. So how did that come about? Why self-care? Of everything that you could have done, why self-care?
Well, as you mentioned, it is such a simple but powerful tool. And, during the phase of the pandemic, a lot of us recognized that there were additional ways that we can support or to pour into our patients, our clients, our population as a whole. While we were figuring this out, we noticed that there were a lot of people who were on the edge. They were managing prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic just threw them over the edge. And one of the challenges that happened is that anxiety levels went up, depression went up. A lot of these things went up, but then a lot of times people were so focused on all of the external things that they neglected some of their internal needs and wants. And that's really what self-care is. Self-care is really bringing you back to where you were when you really were just exploring and life was free and you just felt at your optimal. And a lot of times I usually tell people that you're probably around maybe 7 or 8 years old during that time. When, life, when you look back now, you're like, oh yes, I can do what I wanted, the responsibilities, all of that. You were exploring creativity, you explored different things that you like to do, reading, drawing, coloring, painting, different activities. But as time went on, you had additional titles added to you, either parent, career title, you became, and then some people are probably in that sandwich generation where you're elderly, your parents are not elderly, you're taking care of them, you're taking care of your kids, and taking care of you became less and less of a priority. And I noticed how that led to a lot of people just feeling worn out towards their job. They lost motivation, so really a lot of that increased during the pandemic. I found that as opposed to a lot of people, I actually started pouring into myself a lot more. And so when I looked at myself compared to some of my colleagues, I realized I started to thrive. Why would one thrive during one of the worst times during, number one, their career path? Because as I mentioned, I'm an emergency medicine doctor. this was the time that all ER doctors really had to stand up. So why is it that I thrived during that part? And I recognized it was because of these self-care techniques. And that's when I looked around and realized, wow, if as an ER doc during the pandemic, I'm thriving using small but powerful techniques, then the world they need to know about it, and we need to be able to incorporate it in other industries. So that's where this birth came from.
No, I think that's just really amazing. And, something you said was the fact that, it's about bringing yourself back to where you were. I feel like, yes, if we go back, sometimes we need to really do that work of sitting and thinking, when was I just content? And there were some of the things you said, like back to sometimes it's when you were 7, 8 years old. And so think about it, at 7 to 8 years old, you weren't going to a spa.
No.
You weren't getting a massage. I don't know, maybe you were, but do you know what I mean?
I wasn't.
You weren't going on some weekend getaway with the girls, or it sounds like it's really the simple things that life just distracts us from. Yes. And so it may not, you don't necessarily have to, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but from what I'm hearing already, you don't have to wait till, oh yes, when I have this incredible vacation or time period where I can have like a prolonged period of time where I'm just getting pampered or whatever. Like start practicing self-care from now.
Absolutely. And that's the powerful thing about self-care, and why some people, their mind is set towards what they see on media as to what self-care is. When they see self-care, they think going, as they mentioned, on these exotic vacations, like, oh, that's my self-care. I'm heading to whatever islands, or I'm heading towards the spa. But the self-care is what makes you you. Some people can't stand people touching them. So you give them a spa card and they're like, yes, there you go for self-care.
They feel more anxious.
Yes.
Exactly.
So what is it that makes you you? What are some ways that you can incorporate this in such a short period of time and start now? So think about, what are some things that you like to do? If the spa is your thing, then that's you. Now, some people, it might just be reading and just getting quiet time. Like, if you have a busy mom, working your professional job, you have your duties at home, you have all these duties. Maybe self-care for you is just that 15 minutes to yourself, to just do what it is that you like to do. Maybe you like to read romance novels. Get in 15 minutes a day to just dive into that novel. That's your self-care. What is it that brings you peace? Is it listening to music? Is it meditating? Is it yoga? Is it just taking some nice breathing exercises? It doesn't have to be exotic. Is it just sitting down and just journaling and just writing about all the things that you're grateful for, or all the things that got on your nerves? Letting it out. Yeah. So there are more ways to this than just the expensive vacation to the exotic place at the designated time that's 3 months in advance, because you had to put in to get the time off from your work, but you're stressed out right now. Like, exactly. Yes, you can do other ways, and self-care really can be incorporated in other ways.
Yeah, that is so good. And, for me personally, I'm just going to say my definition of self-care is like on a Sunday afternoon after church, taking a nap. And that's indulgence. Yes. Of course I enjoy the massage too, but I think the key here is there are ways that we can practice this that does not have to be too complicated, because as women, especially as high achieving women who want to get it right all the time, I feel like sometimes we put ourselves under stress to get this self-care thing right. And so I love your approach to this. Let's just demystify it. Let's simplify it. Let's try out what works for you and just do it. And so I think that leads me to how do we then, or how has the experience been working with organizations, because I know that's one other area where you've really focused on. And how has that experience been? And why do you think organizations really need to start to pay attention to this amongst their employees and stuff?
Absolutely. Great question. So one of the reasons why I want to bring this to the organizations is because the same people who are at home handling and dealing with stress, when they're at work, they're still the same person, right? And on an average, the average person spends 1/3 of their life working. So that's a lot of time. So, if you break up your entire lifespan into 3 parts, 1/3 of that is at your job. Now, when you're handling and having to deal with excessive stress and burnout, if that occurs at home, it's going to turn over and it's going to occur at work. Your productivity is going to go down. Your performance, the quality of your work will be less. So even as we think about now, there are a lot of organizations and companies that are unfortunately having to lay off a lot of their people. Now, you had to lay off those people, but the work still needs to be done. So now you have less people to do the same amount of work. You have now increased the stress amongst those who are left. Plus, they're also stressed, wondering, am I next, right? Because that's what happens in the population. When you look to the left, you look to the right, we've all been said, one of you guys are no longer here by the end of the week. The next thought is, well, am I next? So how will that person perform under those levels of stress? Even if, especially since they're high performing and they're high achieving people, there's no way for that to occur on a consistent basis unless we teach them and how ways to manage the stress that occurs at work and the stressors that can lead to the burnouts. So the productivity might be high now, but eventually it will start to suffer. So that's the importance of these self-care at work. That's the importance of dealing and training your employees on how to manage burnout, how to manage stressors, because these skills that you invest within your employees, they're skills that you're investing for work, but they're transferable to life. So they can transfer those same skills when they get home and handle stressors at home. And then you're going to have an employee who is more, well, one, they're well-rounded and they'll be able to handle all, more of what's is handed to them. Of course, this is multifactorial, but they will be able to handle it better. And then you'll have an employee that you can have for a longer period of time that is more productive and that's beneficial to your organization. So that's the importance. And that's why, we're bringing this to the organizations, self-care and workshops.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think this really resonates, especially, and I feel like this, is applicable to all, no matter the industry. So, right, of course, the healthcare industry, I think, is huge. Corporate organizations. And you're right, if you have an employee that is well rested, that has self-care as part of their own daily practices, imagine how they're showing up. They're showing up fully, right? They're not watching the clock and waiting for to run out the building.
Absolutely.
So, making this an environment where they're happy to come to. So then, I think you have convinced us that self-care is critical. We're persuaded now. Where do we start? Where would you recommend starting as individuals? And where would you recommend that employees and organizations actually start in building this culture?
Well, as individuals, a great way to start is really by taking a few minutes and writing down what are some of the things that makes you happy, that brings you calm, peace, makes you whole, brings you back to that state of contentment, as we mentioned earlier. So that's a great place to start, because then you'll have some go-to tools, right? Now, in addition, there are other tools out there, as we mentioned, yoga, breathing exercises. You have tools such as journaling. And one of the best, and I think a great way to start, is gratitude practice. So gratitude practice is something that it's just such a powerful tool, because no matter what state you're in, once you start to really document some of the things that are going on in your life and things that are going right, then you realize that there's more things that are going right than they're going wrong. Now, for organizations, a lot of this is, if you think about the structure of an organization, a lot of the employees are going to really follow the lead. So if you're a leader and you want the organization to incorporate more self-care and, such as taking breaks, such as work-life balance, then it starts from the top down. So they're watching what you're doing. How are you handling the person who is suffering, that everyone else around them realize that they're suffering, but you have not as a leader. So then they're not going to feel comfortable coming to you and saying, I'm also suffering. So as a leader, you have to watch and make checkpoints with your team, right? So 2 minutes, that's all it really takes. 2 minutes to say, hi, how are you doing? How are you doing, Funke? And is she, more than likely the person's going to say, I'm fine, because that's what we do. But then you take it a step further, ask another question. It's a little bit more, well, how is your daughter, or how's your son? Or, how was that event that you were putting together last week? Did it go well? Did it go the way you wanted to? Just find out a little bit more about them. And then you'll be able to use this to gauge if they're doing well or if they're not. Plus there are other ways, like, is there any way that I can support you? These are just very quick questions that can help. Is there something that you're trying to achieve? Is there a skill that you're looking around and you wanted to learn that we can help you with? Just small things that you can do as a leader to really open that dialogue and then keep the team as one. And once you as a leader start to incorporate self-care yourself, once you keep in touch with your employees, then you can check the temperature, the gauge of what's going on, and then you can help them appropriately. Now, what are some other small things that you can do? Breaks are important. Encourage your employees to take the breaks. Encourage them to have the work-life balance, which incorporates sleep. Because so being appropriate. Now, rest assured, you might come up with a crazy idea at 3 a.m. and send a message out, but encourage them to say, okay, I'm just sending this out, but I don't expect you to answer it. I just wanted to get it off my chest before I forget, or even better, maybe you can have that email, you can write it and then just have it timestamped to go off at 8 a.m., but ways in order to just let the team know that you care about them overall. That's the importance. You provide the workshops. If you're noticing that they're not handling stress as well as you, is there a skill set that you want them to learn, or to let them know that this is important to you, then you invest in them and you invest in those workshops and get the professionals to come and show them, like, yes, we believe that this is important, and therefore we invested in getting a professional to come to show you how to incorporate this. So those are great things.
Yeah, no, I think that is so important, because our, as leaders, right, our team is watching what we're doing much more than what we're saying. So if I'm getting emails from my boss at 10 p.m. at midnight, then automatically my thought is, oh, I guess that's the culture. And then I feel stressed, and I feel that then I need to check my email, because I don't know, he or she's going to be sending me some tasks to do. And so out goes boundaries. Of course, out goes sleep, because your mind is racing and you're constantly checking your email. So we can see how this really ties in. And then I wake up and I'm exhausted. And so guess what follows? Burnout, right? Over time.
Exactly.
So
it just goes and goes.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I love this. I love the rationale behind, okay, I as a leader may have those skills. I as a leader may be incorporating this. I may be checking in with my team. I may be checking in with my employees. I may be practicing gratitude, breathing, but I don't have time to teach them those skills, right? I can show, I can do it, and they can see the fruit of it. But if they're struggling, and I feel that this is something that's really important to me, as well as to my team, to build a very cohesive team that's able to achieve the company's goals, then we got to invest in what we think matters. And I think that's beautiful. And that's where just the way your work then really weaves into this, because yes, of course, the leaders are meant to be, we're meant to be thinking creative ways of building and making this mission come to pass. But then we have other people that can help with supporting the team with the right tools and resources. So I just think this is amazing. And the work you do is incredible. And also one thing I wanted to mention is, as a sleep physician, as a sleep coach as well, one of the things that I have my clients do is incorporating self-care as part of your bedtime routine. So even if you're someone who's been running all day, maybe you're taking moments during the day, but trying to create this experience for yourself, even if it's just 10 to 15 minutes, like you said, to say, what am I thankful for? And putting that on paper, it just really starts to change, one, the quality of your sleep. And we've seen that in research, your overall health, right? Hypertension and even obesity, then starts to go down in terms of the prevalence and things like that. So this really improves our health emotionally, physically, and mentally. And so it just blows my mind how you've created this tool, simple as it seems, that could, be life-changing. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure. Hey, as we said, a lot of times once you find something that works for you, you can't keep it a secret. Why keep a light hidden? It's meant to shine so that everyone else can shine.
Absolutely. So what are any final thoughts? We've talked for 20 minutes already, believe it or not. I know we could keep going. I know that for sure. But so what are final thoughts just on this? Like someone who's like, okay, sounds like I need to start and I don't know where to start, or sounds like, I definitely need to incorporate this as part of my organization and I'm not sure where to start. Where can we find you? Just kind of talk to us along those lines.
Oh, absolutely. So I can be found, if you're looking for me to speak to your organization, you can find me on my website, which is Your Caring Docs. That's URCaringDocs.com. And you can fill out one of the forms. You can also get in contact with me. If you are on social media, then you can get in contact with me on LinkedIn. That's where a lot of my videos and a lot of my content is on my LinkedIn profile, and that's Tamara Beckford, MD. Once you put Tamara Beckford, then you'll see my picture, and you'll be able to interact with me on LinkedIn. If you want to send me an email, you can also do that through Dr. Beckford at yourcaringdocs.com. That's Dr. B as in boy, ECKFORD at yourcaringdocs, URCaringDocs.com. I'd love to hear from you. So keep in contact.
Love it. And I'll put all this in the comments as well as in the notes. Thank you so much, Dr. Beckford. You guys heard, self-care doesn't have to be complicated. It can become a lifestyle and you can do it. So we're rooting for you. Follow Dr. Beckford, Your Caring Docs. Of course, you know where to find me at Restful Sleep MD on social media, as well as Dr. Funke Brown. And if you're looking to build sustainable, restful sleep habits, then reach out and let's have a chat. I'll put my link also in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Beckford, and bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. I'm gonna stop recording.